Welcome, folks. We'll begin here shortly. If you would like to fill out a poll that is going to be sent out here, that'll help us with some breakout rooms coming up later in our session. Okay, we'll have a little bit of time as folks are arriving, but we're going to get started here. Welcome, everyone, to our Careers and Conversations panel series hosted by the Microbiome Center's Consortium Education Working Group. I've noted it here before, but as you enter, please fill out the poll that you'll see as you come in. This will help us form breakout groups that best match what folks are going for later on in our session. To introduce ourselves, my name's Derek Camp. Working Tech is Kim Dovu and Katrina DeWitt, all part of the MCC Early Career Working Group. So the MCC is a nationwide network of microbiome centers working together to develop and share tools and resources that accelerate the understanding of all microbiomes. Part of this mission includes preparing early career scientists who are pursuing careers in microbiome research. And in these discussions, we hope to have a space where folks who are more established in their careers can offer insights, knowledge, or encouragement to those of us beginning our paths in microbiome sciences. We're kind of shaking things up today for our final session of the semester. Rather than having a traditional panel, we're facilitating a workshop called CVs, Resumes, and Landing Your Next Career Step. We have a speaker today, Dr. Carly Muletz-Wolz of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, who will give a brief talk discussing how to adapt your CV and resumes towards the multitudes of careers that are encompassed in microbiome sciences. Later, we'll form breakout groups with others in the audience who have a similar career route in mind to you, and that's where we're going to chat about ways we can punch up our CVs and resumes to address our career goals. So this is going to be a good excuse to dust off the old CV and make sure that it's up to date. But if you don't have one, no worries. We have some examples in a link that we'll be able to provide that you can use for some of these practices as well. So with that in mind, I'll hand off the mic to Dr. Muletz-Wolz to introduce herself and talk a little bit about these CV practices here.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Um, I guess first I see there's some chats about the pool. Is most people able to access the pool to get to it? Or I'll let you guys keep chatting over there while I share my screen, but mostly thumbs up. Okay. So I decided I'm gonna share my desktop. Because I'm gonna show you some of my CVs over time. Uh-oh, no, what'd I do? I stopped it. I shared it and then I stopped it. Share my desktop. Okay. Does that look good? I can't really see you guys if I look at you like this. I can see you, Derek. You can see yourself. Thumbs up. Okay, thanks. Yeah, maybe I'll leave one person here down in the corner or something or down like this. So give me yeah, if something happens crazy, just flag me or something. Um as Derek said, my name is Carly Muletz-Wolz. I am a microbiologist at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Let's see. Why don't you like me? Oh, there we go. Okay. So first, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of an intro to myself, a couple slides of where I started from and how I got to be where I am. And then I will just go through kind of thinking about different CVs. Um, and just kind of like thoughts that came into my head. Like I have helped hire graduate students and postdocs, and I've applied for a lot of academic and federal jobs. So just things that I have learned or thought about, or like what needs to go into a CV. Um, First, though, who am I? I like to think of my life as a series of left to right turns. I think many of us kind of think of this road map or map that we've went throughout our career. I started in my bachelor's degree at Frostburg State University. I'm gonna make this go away. I guess that's just kind of stuck with it. It's fine. You guys will just enjoy my screen. Um, where I originally wanted to be an astronomer when I was growing up. And so I started taking physics classes. That's at least what I told people when I was a kid, and realized that physics was not necessarily the right thing for me. And so but I also knew I wanted to learn Spanish as a second language. So I did a study abroad in my sophomore year, went to Costa Rica and took an ecology class with all Costa Rican students. It was like chasing white-faced monkeys, capuchin monkeys through the rainforest and getting attacked by mosquitoes, and it was really hard work, and they're like throwing their poop at me, but I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. And so I came back and declared a major to become how do I hide this? Hide video panel. Oh no, I don't want to hide you guys. Show video panel. Sorry. Hide floating media control. There we go. And so then I grew up in Frostburg. So I actually went and did my undergrad at a place where I grew up. And then I'm a first gen college student, so I don't know. It was exciting that I had a bachelor's degree and was trying to think about what to do next. And was like, it would be really cool to be a professor. So I decided to go and apply for grad schools. I did not know what I was doing. I failed grad school applications for a couple years. In the interim, I went backpacking in South America. I went and lived in Vermont in the winters and was a snowboard bum and eventually got into grad school into a master's program at James Madison University in Virginia. This is my plug for anybody. You guys are all probably much younger than I am. Go enjoy your life right now. These periods of time between grad school and postdocs and positions are the ideal time to go have some fun. Before you have to have a permanent job where like you have to ask for time off all the time. Like I have to request for every day off and I only get so much leave and things happen. So go do fun stuff. I studied salamanders, disease and microbes. So I studied a pathogen of amphibians, how their skin microbiome may protect them from disease, for my master's. and decided I really loved it. Went and did a PhD at the University of Maryland, and there's a picture of me. I can kind of make this smaller. With my first petri dish, culturing microbes. So shout out to everybody in microbiomes and microbiology research. Um, uh, I then finished my PhD. I was 9 months pregnant. I figured it would help me, my committee to pass me. No, just kidding. I did a good job during my PhD, I swear. And have since had a family. I have 3 kids. That also makes traveling to exotic places a little bit harder. So good before, you have kids to get that traveling in. And started a postdoc at the Smithsonian. I had a committee member that worked at the Smithsonian and helped recruit me after I had come back from maternity leave to have a postdoctoral position there. So it was a fairly actually straightforward. I just applied for one postdoc and went right into this postdoc position at the Smithsonian. And then while I was there, this molecular ecologist and pathogen scientist position was listed. I applied for that, competed with several people, and was awarded that position. So it was a 5-year donor-funded position, like a research scientist PI level. So these were kind of easy transitions, I would say, for me. Um, but then I that position came to end, and I started applying for jobs. I started applying for academic jobs in like the last 2 years of that 5-year position, and still I'm applying to this day for academic jobs. Um, I funded my own position there for 2 years on grants, and built this really big program, conservation, microbiomes, lots of grants that help fund my position, lots of postdoc students, lots of papers. It really kind of blossomed into this really great um, program, but there was never any signs of a permanent federal position. And this is where like things start like it was transitioning easily and things started to become difficult and really started ramping up in probably 2022, applying for lots of jobs. In 2024, I think the first couple years I was just applying for academic jobs and then started applying for state and federal jobs. I will say I don't have much expertise about industry jobs. But started then applying for federal jobs as well. And this is where I came to NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, in a program, complex microbial systems group, looking at engineering microbiomes and microbiome standards, and have this focus on agriculture, is what I'm doing now. So that kind of is like my story, and I'm still like, it's not a permanent position. It's a 4-year term position that hopefully will become permanent. But I feel like there's a lot of in limbo. Science is not in like the best state, so I will try not to be too pessimistic, but I'm still applying for jobs. Um, and I was thinking about like what is a dream job, right? Like I think when I first signed up for that, I wanted to do this. You guys had maybe like, make writing your CV for your dream job, and it made me kind of reflect about like, do I have my dream job? Did I have my dream job? What is a dream job? Like where do we want to go? Like we have these goals, and like went to grad school to become a professor, and I have not got there, right? I've been applying for research positions. I have had the opportunity to take academic teaching positions, but have turned those positions down because they didn't feel like they lined up with my personal strengths, my life goals, right? So it's like thinking about who you are, and I think this evolves with time. I feel like, who I was when I was 20, thinking I wanted to be a professor. Now I'm in my 40s, right? Like those things change. Um, my PhD advisor, I was recently catching up with her, and she was like, giving me the advice of these trade-offs in life. And she said, gave this analogy of like 3 legs of a stool that there's like your job, your personal life, and your location. And it's really rare for people to have all three of those, which made me kind of depressed. And I was like, I still think you can have all three. But you might just have to wait longer, right? Like that's the reality. I am like trying to figure out how to have all three. Um, but it's been taking me longer in my career. I was hoping like by the time I was 30, I would have my like dream job, right? But it's like it's always evolving. Okay, so some of the things I kind of thought about when I was over the years that I've liked about thinking about who I am and what I want to be. I mean, this is like an individual decision, right? Is the Myers-Briggs test that perhaps many of you have heard about. The DISC one is a new one that a colleague here actually informed me about. So this one is like kind of like how you interact with people in your workforce. And it's an interesting one to take, like where you kind of line up and whether you're they kind of have a dominant position versus an influencer versus you're the steady one versus you're kind of like the mindful one. Um, and it does just kind of help you think about who you are and what maybe are appropriate jobs for you. I've had a few people that I've met over the years that went down completely different career paths and then realized they hated it and then changed to a completely different position, went back to school, did those types of things. And I think, right now is a good time to be like, I am doing what I want to do, right? It's like the worst thing to like. So I was thinking maybe the flip side of like, what is a dream job is like, what is not a job you want, like just being very aware because there's also, and I should say I read this book recently called Designing Your Life. I think there's a couple other books that are really good to read and just avoiding being in your 40s and being in a job that you hate, right? And feeling trapped. So just like Carly words of wisdom while I have the mic. Okay. I think Derek made this comment when I was coming in that a lot of like your guys' talks that you've had have been like, it's about networking. Like networking is huge. And I would say that probably like this position I have, sorry, this is driving me crazy. Um, is because I had some name recognition and the people that hired me I had actually met at conferences before. Maybe that's not the only reason they hired me, but I think it helped, right? And so I really started trying to do this early on in my career to give talks, posters, like whatever, at any meeting, whether it's like a meeting at like my university, anything like local chapters of ASM or ESA or whatever, like whatever flavor of science that you're doing, like go sign up and give those talks and posters no matter how preliminary your data is. And I always felt like it helped me actually make sure I had preliminary data. Then you need to analyze your data and help move it kind of through the pipeline. Um, Serving on committees, school organizations, coming to these type of meetings. I mean, I think it's like all the things that you can think of, like put these things on your CV to show that you're kind of have this diversity of traits that you've been working on. Um, and always seek opportunities to grow your skill set, go to workshops, volunteer for side projects. I was involved in a ton of side projects during my PhD. Um, and they really helped. Like that postdoc that I got was because I volunteered to do a side project and met somebody that said, "Hey, you did a great job. I'd like to hire you." I would say that applying for any and all funding and awards, I think like, I was saying like I've brought on grad students and postdocs now in like my position and seeing that you have awards or you've applied for like even like $500 grants, right? They don't have to be big. Like you're writing grants and you're thinking about trying to fund your own research or getting awards. Like they really help build that resume. Um, Doing outreach, I would always try to like go to like local regional parks and see if they had like little sessions of nature days or whatever that you could give just to talk to people that would come. And that was a nice kind of easy way to give simple presentations that could build my CV. And mentorship, I started really early on trying to mentor people, and I think that has come into be something that's been really beneficial for me in getting a lot of my positions and kind of moving through my career is that I like knew how to mentor people and could do that. Um, I think everybody, if you don't have a website, you should all make a website. There are free ones that are out there. Um, I heard that like I probably was more likely that I got that Smithsonian job because of the other two people they didn't have websites. Like it was like a thing that people liked that they could go to my website and easily see that like I had a web presence and I had this like information in this digestible format where the two other top applicants did not have a website. And you guys have probably heard this before, but definitely Google search your name and make sure there's like not any lingering, Facebook pictures or something that you don't want people to see when they Google your name because people will Google your names. I Google names of everybody that I'm going to hire or bring on, right? Um, so just do that kind of quick thing. All right. Um, Another thing that I've done over the years is seeking advice on your CV, your resume, and like how you're applying for jobs. Use your network. I always would like find people that I thought were like, more like they were doing awesome. They were superstars in my opinion, and I knew them. I'd met them at meetings, or maybe they were in other people's labs that were a few years ahead of me, and asked like, could I see their CV or would they be willing to review my CV? Um, I think that's really helpful. I've got some really good feedback, and I've definitely like if I have enough time, I don't want to take up too much of the time of the breakup groups. We can look at some of my CVs and they've like changed over time. And that's basically because people are like, I don't know, Carly, I don't really like how that looks. Or like you look at somebody else's CV and you're like, it just looks really pleasing. And so those kind of changes. Um, I would say asking your committee too or your advisors is a good idea to have them just look at your CV and ask for the feedback because sometimes people just may not give it to you. In interviewing friends and colleagues, I've spent a lot of time over the years. I think this is like, what is a dream job? I've called lots of friends to be like, are you happy in your R1 teaching position? Are you happy in your industry job? Do you like working for the federal government? Because they give you kind of their somebody that and you're just, asking for help and people generally like to talk about themselves. So and it's good. I think it helps build like what you think you should be doing by using your network. Okay. I'm just gonna go quickly over some things that I just kind of thought about. Like, it seems like there's gonna be people kind of at these different levels about like whether you're going into grad school, going into your postdoc, going into academic positions. I think in looking at PhD applications before, or like having grad students that came and worked in my lab at the Smithsonian, skill sets and like already working in somebody else's lab were like probably the two top things. Like that you have the skills that are needed and you've already like been in a lab and know what lab settings are. So like even volunteering, and I think most of you, if you guys are grad students, right, you've been in a lab now and trying to just increase that skill set. Um, and that kind of thing where I was like, you should give presentations, like give every presentation you can. Those are probably some of the easiest things to get on your CV whenever you're first trying to like put stuff on paper is like they're much easier to achieve than that peer-reviewed publication, right? That takes too long. Um, and think about doing some outreach, like I said, these like local parks or just things that are like somewhat outside of science that show that you're not just doing science. And I had this recommendation from a committee member when I was like finishing my master's to put professional societies on my CV when I was like first trying to be like, I just have like a one-page CV and like what do I put on there and how do I, like and this was to apply into PhD programs. And so just kind of thinking and so being part of those professional societies and then that gives you the opportunity to like sign up for these committees and do other things that you can put on your CV. Um, Into postdoc. Um, I have hired some postdocs over the years. I will say published papers probably are like one of the biggest thing now. Like that is more important is like you are reaching your deliverables. Like right? I think most people at least from a Smithsonian hiring postdocs there, you're doing the research and you're publishing your papers. So get those like dissertation chapters out, get those postdocs, get those papers out. Or if they're in prep, put them on your CV, right? Like put as many on in prep. I mean, don't lie too much about it, but like as long as they're like, there's a manuscript body there, put that on your CV. Varied skill sets. Skill sets are always, I think, good to have like a little section of the skill sets that you have. having mentored people, I always like to see that you've applied for, been given awards, you've applied for funding, some of these similar concepts from before. It's good to see that you're trying to build this like career for yourself beyond just doing the research. I will say that letters of recommendation at this point come in as being really strong. And so we should always be cognizant of like making good impressions and also asking appropriate people for letters of recommendation. Into academic jobs, I have taught or I've like applied for academic jobs and I've like, interviewed some friends about what like that have been on teaching um panels like that were hiring teaching professors. Certainly this like portfolio of classes taught is very important. Having a strong teaching statement, that's kind of like a separate piece that you're going to apply with than just your CV. But I think you could put it on your CV, having something that's very succinct. And that you're ready to use all these new teaching strategies, like bringing more science, hands-on science into the classroom. And strong mentorship records are very important in teaching. And a plug to anybody that's in grad school, you should teach at least one semester during grad school. If you have a fellowship, that's amazing. If you have all your years funded, that's awesome. You should still step back and take at least one semester to teach so you've got something on your CV because you may need that at some point. Um, Okay, just a couple more. Research from what I get from people that have been on hiring committees, and I've applied for a lot of these more like R1, R2 positions. Publication record and grant record are probably like the most important. So this kind of goes back to the postdoc too, like pumping those things out and applying for grants. Um, it's hard. Your research portfolio needs to line up with the departmental needs, and that's just something you just have to deal with. And you might not get those jobs because you just don't line up, and that's just the reality. Mentorship and service on committees, I've heard is also pretty important in these decisions. Okay. Um, we'll do federal job CV and industry super quick, and then we don't need to look at my CVs. Um, so federal job. I feel like this then changes this like traditional research mentality to something that's different. It's kind of this like record of deliverables, and deliverables can mean different things depending on the job. Like perhaps it's publications, but perhaps it's doing just having the skill sets or like going to workshops. Like it doesn't, publications don't necessarily aren't as critical here as they are in like the academic world. It's just that you can show signs that you can achieve certain things. You should list your skill sets again and this like minimal job requirements. Like you need to be this clear. You need to take those keywords and put them in the CV. The biggest thing that I was surprised about as I was applying for more federal jobs is actually the importance of the classes you took when you were a graduate student. And so I've kind of done some screenshots of like, here is like biological science group. There's all these like, there's microbiology, ecology. I've applied for ones within the ecology and microbiology series. And I've also applied, like, I took enough statistics classes that I could apply for this like mathematics and statistical group. But if you don't have if you don't have those courses, you will not make it through the system. So if you're still in grad school and you're thinking about a federal job, I would go look and see what these like minimal requirements are. Like the statistics one is like 12 hours of statistics. You just need 12 hours of some sort of statistics. Um, I did see a bunch of soil science jobs that I thought were really interesting, and I had not met the minimum requirement. So like now I'm no longer eligible and I'm not going back to college. Um, think I think now in this like set like I've worked in the federal government for a lot of years now, and there's this like annual performance evaluation that you have to do where you have to show you can plan research, you can conduct research, you can disseminate research, and then you're like doing these things for your colleagues, like institutional health, professional development, customer service. Those probably aren't as important, but those things need to kind of be articulated in your CV. That's where like you're showing signs of deliverables that you can plan research, you can conduct it, you can disseminate it, and it just looks a little bit different than like a traditional academic job. Okay, last one. So I have very limited experience with industry CVs. Um, Skill set and experience seem like that would be most important. I asked my colleague here that's worked for several different industry jobs and she's a microbiologist here at NIST. So these were her steps. She's got 3 steps for us that she told me. There is auto screening in the industry world too. So keywords and tailoring for specific jobs are important. I feel like now probably most jobs were up against this hurdle. Um, and I don't know if these are necessarily specific to industry, but like make sure your strongest selling points are clear and up front. Um, you want to have attention to detail. And certainly I would say this is true for most of like, yes, submit as a PDF when possible. I think industry has like a lot more kind of open ways that you can submit. So always submit your materials as a PDF. Um, and I kind of like this one that she was like, you're actually interacting directly more with like individuals and HR in the industry world. So like having like adding personal touches and personality like may help you stand out more. Okay. I am going to see, I guess I didn't really need to share my screen like this. Hold on, what do I gotta do? I need to stop sharing. So you guys can watch me fumble around here. So I will, oh, because I hid the thing. How do I do this, guys? Now we're stuck. We're stuck looking at my computer. Oh, here we go. Can I stop sharing here? Share settings.
We did it. Incredible. Yeah, thanks so much for that. As any like key takeaways that I'm getting from that would be even like some of these professional societies joining is something that I could see looking into and doing that idea of aligning the needs for each individual job. Some of our prompts coming up are going to be involved in that. That idea of touch grass, go outside, go to a park, look at the
Mhm.
things that are going outside in the community around you, and yeah, engage with those folks. And then also networking and sharing your CV with folks, bouncing ideas off people, taking a look, and also even just asking the cool people around you for input or seeing what their CVs look like. And that will bring us to a great segue to what we have coming up here next is some breakout room sections. Kim, would you be able to put those slides up real quick? The breakout rooms, and this will be about 15 minutes where we'll be able to we have these breakout rooms available that you should be able to find, and they should be labeled with the career path that you said coming in on the poll here. And in those breakout rooms, then we're going to have about 15 minutes where we can have an action item as well as then a few questions that can guide conversation with the folks in your room. It'll be about 5 people in each room, and we got about, yeah, 15 minutes to have these conversations. In the chat, dropped a link that you can use to follow to not only some example CVs, just in case you didn't bring yours or don't want to be showing it off right now, but that's where you can also find slides for our conversation today, as well as these prompts for the corresponding groups that you are in. We'll be able to give a heads up before we hop into our returning time here to answer any questions or some final discussions. But we will also then be bopping around. The hosts will be seeing if folks have any questions in these rooms and make sure that everything is going smoothly. These prompts don't have to be strictly followed, but they're there if you would like them for now or for a later time when you're maybe looking at your CV again and seeing what's going on and maybe trying to punch it up for a different job offer. So we'll have folks join these breakout rooms, and we have space in the chat if there are any questions that need to be addressed.
Hey Derek, what are those alien looking creatures?
That's a great question. When in my PhD, I studied the Hawaiian bobtail squid, and these are a few squid that were I took a picture of underneath the microscope, and they're nice little babies.
Okay.
Um,
Are they in
but
freshwater systems or so?
they are saltwater. They're all
Oh,
marine.
okay.
Yeah, good question. But with that, if I want to give a little bit of time, if there's a couple final questions for Carly here, we can drop them in the chat, or if you have any, feel free to unmute yourself and we can address those. Also wanted to then have this time to be if you met someone really cool in your group and you don't want to lose that contact information before you get sent off, then feel free to reach out in the chat to folks and exchange contact info there with the personal messages if you'd like. Kat, you have a question?
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, I had a question related to the sample portfolio that was shared in our prompt for the other group. I just had more of a general question of what do folks find like the annual kind of personal budget is to like invest in a portfolio or a website domain or those things. I think while it's really helpful to have the examples and like people's feedback of what worked for them, there's also like the logistical side of it too that I would be curious to hear how other folks have navigated, especially when we all know that grad students are not compensated fairly for the volume and breadth of their work.
I'm happy to start chatting about that. I think that those things are really valuable. Like I said, I think the website, like it took a lot of time, but then I felt gratified whenever like somebody had told me that like that was I think that is a really valuable thing. And then I often wonder that I spend way too much time, like I've applied for a ton of academic jobs, like finding out like how should I tailor it to each university and like doing all these tailoring things. And I'm like, I'm just wasting my time. Like of all these like I don't know, 45 jobs. I've applied for like 45 jobs and made it to like, 3 Zoom interviews. Like, Jesu crikeys. And so all that time that has been spent to try to make those materials good, where like I've heard other people just like applying for hundreds of jobs and just never tailoring, right? Like, and they get jobs too in the end. So like, but I would say that website, I give a huge plug to like, I think you should make a website. I think you should put the time into having a website because I think presence nowadays is huge. And that's my 2 cents.
I've also found it to be really worth it. I do, I think I go through Wix and I got a deal somehow with that. But it was a worthwhile investment on my end. But I know Katrina's putting, or sorry, Kim's putting a link down into the chat. That's a free hosting service. I know folks who use GitHub as well for hosting their websites that way too. And to my knowledge, those are free or at least not very expensive. And but I definitely hear what you're saying. It's a really great question and something to be thinking about.
I currently use Wix and I use just
Mhm.
the free version of that. Obviously that comes with like the weird banner that doesn't look as great. I've but it's a website, it's there. I've done the best that I can. I'm somebody who I definitely want to revamp it. And so when we're talking about like personal investment, I look at more so in time because I know when I go to revamp it, I'm going to be spending way too much of my time to do this. Like that overhaul is going to take me like days and hours. And so even though I use the free version because I'm just probably not going to pay for that, I'm going to try to make it look as nice as it can.
I'd jump in with a note on Google Sites. Google Sites is free. However, if you're a graduate student and you're making it using your university's domain, make sure you transfer it off before you graduate because I had that happen where my website was hosted by my school. And when I graduated and lost access, the whole website was not recoverable. So either recover it ahead of time or don't use your university's web builder at all.
Awesome. I love the little feedback moment there. Who needs breakout rooms when you can use the big room? Um, well, I think with that, that's going to be our time for today. A huge thank you to Carly for joining us today and lending her expertise. And thanks for everyone here for coming and participating. There's a feedback form that we have on the slides that we use today. Go ahead and use that if you'd like to leave feedback. Our panels are going to be resuming again after the summer. And so keep an eye out for stuff on your emails or socials to make sure that you check those panels out. And with that, thanks everyone for joining. I hope you take care, and we'll see you in the fall.